All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the channel. It's good to be back. I was sick for the last few days and really wanted to make a video. Today is January 12th, Yud Shvat, big day in Chabad. I think it's the day that the Rebbe became the Rebbe. So that's a good day. But yeah, anyway, today, so I want to start doing some videos. Obviously, we do a lot of Breslov history on this channel. And we already have I don't know, probably close to 100 videos of Breslov history, but there's so much. And I want to do now, probably starting in order, more of like Rebbe Nachman's life. I mean, things that are only written down in Tzil Sarfei Kodesh and not in other Svarim, especially inside the English books. So we're just going to keep going from his life, not from the beginning. We already have a lot of videos of, how Rebbe Nachman was born and his childhood and things like that. But let's, we're going to start today in Tzil Sarfei Kodesh, where Rebbe Nachman, after he got married, after Rebbe Nachman got married, he lived in a town called Osatin. He married a girl, Sasha, or Sash, whatever, I don't know. Everyone says different names. From the town of Osatin, and he lived over there. This is when Rebbe Nachman was about 14, 15 years old. Okay, so there's two things I want to read over here. We already know from other Svarim that Rebbe Nachman, his whole avodah, everything that he was doing when he was little, especially when he was a little kid, was very, very hidden. People didn't understand his greatness at all. He tried to keep everything hidden that he did. And it says over here, this is from Shivchei Haran, which is translated into English, but I don't think this piece is in it because it's from the Ksav Yad of Rabbi Naftali, who was one of the main students of Rebbe Nachman. It says over here that all his avodah was very, very hidden. It said nobody in the city of Mezhebuzh, because Rebbe Nachman grew up in Mezhebuzh, in the house of the Baal Shem Tov, which was passed down to him, which was passed down to his parents. The Baal Shem Tov was not alive, but he grew up inside the house that the Baal Shem Tov lived in. Right? So nobody in Mezhebuzh knew anything about Rebbe Nachman, that he was great. That he was a big tzaddik when he was a kid. It says only in the country of Ukraine, which was, I guess, the whole entire, Mezhebuzh, in the place where the borders were different back then, in the place where his father-in-law lived, which was in Osatin, right? He lived next to Medvedevka, which is on the edge of Ukraine, samuch to the Gvul of Russia. And in there, they knew a little bit about his greatness. There, they would give him a little bit of chashivas, a little bit of kavod. But when he was in Mezhebuzh, nobody knew about him at all. Okay, because he was very sasum v'ganuz ma'od. He was very closed off and hidden from everything. And all his avodah was very, very hidden and secret. Okay? So now, let's understand the next story over here. This is the main story I wanted to read today over here. So we're talking about Rebbe Nachman's life now again, how he was very, very hidden when he was a child, when he was a teenager, when he was already married as a teenager. This is before he obviously became a big Rebbe. So it says like this. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the safer and good position. So it says again over here, the way that Rabbi Nachman lived was that he was very, very hidden, like we just said. Even in front of his father-in-law, who was Rabbi Ephraim, sorry, I forgot to mention that before, he would hide himself very, very greatly. One time, his father-in-law was going outside on the frozen river, and he saw Rabbeinu playing on the river with small children, right? And he thought that, my son-in-law is not learning at all, right? That's how hidden Rebbe Nachman was, even from his own father-in-law. And Rabbi Ephraim, his father-in-law, was a very big into the mitzvah of Hachnas Sarchim. He would bring in a lot of guests to his house, and a lot of big tzaddikim would come to his house. And one time there was a guest that they had in his house who was one of the great Talmidim of the Maggid of Mezrich. It says over here in a footnote, and we don't know who this is, and any rumor about it doesn't have any makar. So we don't know who this person is, but it was one of the great students of the Maggid of Mezrich. And Rebbe Nachman's father-in-law told this student of the Maggid of Mezrich about his tsar, that his son-in-law, that he took this chassan, who was a great-grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't learn. He doesn't even know how to read words. That's how much he was hidden. So the guest said it can't be. He can't, because he was scared to talk about a grandson of the Baal Shem Tov like that, a great-grandson of the Baal Shem Tov like that. But Rebbe Nachman's father-in-law said, no, it's true. Fine. So the guest said, fine. So let's test him. How at least he reads. So they called in Rebbe Nachman, and they started testing him. He started testing him with his guest. And he started testing him from the words of the Mishnah. This Mishnah is Masechtas Bava Kama, Parak Beis, the third Mishnah, Mishnah Gimel. The Mishnah says, Hakelev v'hagidi shekaftu meroish hagag. The dog and the gidi is the goat, right? The gidi is a goat. Right? I think the gidi is a goat. They jumped from the roof. Okay? And Rebbe Nachman made himself like he doesn't know how to read. And he says, Hakalev v'hagadi shekaftu marsh. Which... And it says over here in the footnote from Rav Levi Yitzchak that the words Hakole v'Hagadi instead of Hakele v'Hagadi, in the way that they pronounced in the story is actually how Rabbi Nachman pronounced it, and this actually is the reason why he did that is because they actually have an explanation in the Russian language. So he wanted to make himself like he was speaking Russian, Kilo, and also the word marsh in Russia means maher. And they didn't understand what Rebbe Nachman was trying to do over here. Obviously, they thought he was just messing around. And v'nisbayesh ha'oirech me'oid. And the guest was very embarrassed. And he was very embarrassed for Rebbe Nachman's father. He was very embarrassed for Rebbe Nachman himself. And Rebbe Nachman's father said to him, I told you. So you didn't have to test him. I already told you. He didn't know. But even with all this, the tzaddik, who was the student of the Maggid of Mezrich, wasn't makbid on Rabbeinu. He didn't want to make any fights between him and his father-in-law, because he knew that he was from the Zerah of the Baal Shem Tov, he was a descendant of the Baal Shem Tov. But when he met Rabbi Nachman afterwards, outside, without his father-in-law there, he asked him, could it really be that you're from the Baal Shem Tov and from Rebbe Nachman Denker, and you gave a lot of money to marry whatever Sach Rav to marry his daughter, and you don't learn at all. You don't even know how to read. And Rabbi Nachman didn't say anything, and the guy kind of hit him on his cheek a little bit, and Rabbi Nachman cried, and he didn't answer him at all. Okay, so what's going to happen now in the story? So now the tzaddik is leaving the city, he's going on the way, and he passed through a forest, and he heard a great screaming coming from the forest. He went to the Balagala, and he told to the wagon driver, can you hear this? And he also heard it, and they saw that this was the voice of tefillah. This was like somebody praying. So he told the wagon driver to stop, and they started following the voice until they came to the place where Rabbi Nachman was. Rabbi Nachman was there, and they found Rabbi Nachman in wearing a talis and tefillin, and davening with koiles until Shemayim, and tears were pouring down his face until the ground around him was wet from tears. It says that his shoes were retuvim ushkuim b'toich admais. His shoes were sinking into the ground because of the amount of tears. And v'nival hatzadik moed, and the tzaddik was very confused and shocked and blown away. And he waited until Rebbe Nachman finished his tefillah, and then he started asking Rebbe Nachman for forgiveness, because he saw that Rebbe Nachman was actually a great tzaddik, that he was just trying to hide everything, and also that he wanted to ask him for forgiveness for embarrassing him by testing him and for hitting him and all these things. And Rebbe Nachman said, "I am meichel you only on Tanai, only on condition that you she'avtiach shaloi lefarsim hadavar kol yimei chai, that you cannot tell the story ever in your life, whatever you saw." But the tzaddik said, "No, I need to tell your father-in-law." Right? So Rebbe Nachman said, "Fine, you could tell my father-in-law." And he went to his father-in-law and he said, "You know what? We don't know anything about the derech of the way that the Baal Shem Tov, the way of the nechte of the Baal Shem Tov, the descendants of the Baal Shem Tov serve Hashem. That don't get involved in him. Don't bother him to learn. He knows what he's doing, and let him serve Hashem the way that he's supposed to serve Hashem." But the rest of it, he didn't tell him that he saw Rebbe Nachman davening and stuff like that. And the chaysin of Rabbeinu, the father-in-law of Rabbeinu, listened to the tzaddik. So, because he said this guy's a big tzaddik, he obviously knows what he's talking about. And this tzaddik, before he died, he told this story to his children so that they should know the greatness of Rebbe Nachman, and that they should also be careful to not go against Rabbeinu, because that was a very popular thing to do, is to go against Rebbe Nachman. So we see that Rebbe Nachman tried to keep himself hidden as much as possible, even from his father-in-law and from everybody else, until he was, obviously a big Rebbe and different things like that. But that's something that's very interesting, that story, and we'll continue, more with stories of probably how Rebbe Nachman moved from different cities to different cities. Why specifically? There's all these different things. In the books it says, "Oh, Rebbe Nachman just moved" and whatever. But in Siach Sarfei Kodesh and other places, it gives a lot more background. So it's very interesting to know. So we'll try to cover that in the next videos.